In many high-income, high human development index (HDI) nations, the public discourse around obesity remains fixated on personal responsibility. People are told they lack willpower, don't exercise enough, or simply make poor choices. The implication is clear: if you're overweight, it's your fault. This narrative, though deeply ingrained in modern culture, is both misleading and damaging. It obscures the true drivers of rising obesity rates and shifts blame onto individuals while ignoring the powerful, systemic forces that shape how entire populations eat. In reality, the obesity epidemic in developed nations is less about laziness and more about a food environment that has evolved to encourage overconsumption at every turn. As economies have grown and urbanized, the structure of everyday eating has been transformed. Industrialized food production, aggressive marketing, deregulated supply chains, and consumer convenience have converged to produce a dietary landscape in which high-calorie, ultra-processed foods are not just common, they are unavoidable. Supermarkets in high HDI nations are stocked with thousands of products, the majority of which are engineered for taste, shelf life, and profit, not health. These foods are calorie-dense, nutrient-poor, and formulated to be eaten quickly and in large quantities. The average person is exposed to hundreds of food cues per day, from billboards and television commercials to vending machines, gas stations, and food delivery apps. Eating is no longer tied to hunger or meal times. It's become a continuous activity, driven by an environment that makes restraint a full-time job. Moreover, food is now more than sustenance. It's a commercial battlefield. In high-income countries, entire industries are built around maximizing consumer engagement with food. This means layering sugar, fat, and salt into products to create hyper-palatable combinations that override natural satiety mechanisms. It means pricing unhealthy options lower than their nutritious counterparts, often through subsidies and economies of scale that favor processed over whole foods. It means placing junk food at eye level in stores, packaging it with cartoon characters, and marketing it to children before they can form critical defenses against manipulation. In this context, the idea that individuals should simply make better choices rings hollow. Choice implies freedom, but food choices in high HDI nations are heavily influenced by economic, cultural, and structural pressures. For working parents, processed convenience foods are often the only viable option amidst time constraints and budget limitations. For lower-income populations, calorie-rich fast food may be the cheapest way to stay full. And for many, the continuous exposure to food stimuli, paired with stress, fatigue, and emotional triggers, leads to unconscious eating that defies intention or education. Scientific evidence reinforces this systemic view. Studies consistently show that people in high-income countries consume more calories not because they're less active or more indulgent, but because their environments make overeating easy and undetectable. Portion sizes have ballooned, eating occasions have multiplied, and the line between snack and meal has all but vanished. Even those who are health-conscious face a constant uphill battle, navigating misleading labels, hidden sugars, and endless marketing designed to confuse and entice. It's also worth noting that the rise in obesity in high HDI nations has not occurred in isolation. It has risen alongside economic liberalization, mass food production, and the globalization of Western dietary patterns. As traditional food cultures are replaced with industrial ones, the shift in body weight follows. In this way, obesity is not a personal deviation from a healthy norm, it is a predictable outcome of the system itself. Framing obesity as a failure of personal responsibility is not just inaccurate, it is socially harmful. It stigmatizes individuals, reinforces classist narratives, and deflects attention from the industries and policies that engineer unhealthy outcomes. It fosters shame rather than support and discourages meaningful reform. If we continue to treat obesity as a moral failing rather than a structural issue, we will never create the conditions necessary for lasting, equitable health improvements. The good news is that systemic problems can have systemic solutions. High HDI nations have the resources, research, and infrastructure to begin reversing course. Policies that tax sugary beverages, regulate marketing to children, mandate clearer labeling, subsidize whole foods, and reform school meal programs can all shift the food landscape toward health. Urban planning that supports walkability, green space, and access to fresh food also plays a role. But these changes require a societal shift in how we view the root causes of obesity, not as a reflection of character, but as a reflection of environment. Ultimately, if high-income countries want to address the obesity crisis honestly and effectively, they must stop pointing fingers at individuals and start looking at the systems in which those individuals live. Obesity is not an individual disorder. It is a population-level response to a toxic food culture. And until we acknowledge that truth, we will continue to blame the victims of that system instead of challenging the system itself.